From RareGem Productions, this is A Man's Response.
I remember growing up, the best time was holidays, Christmas time, Thanksgiving. I remember going to my aunts, various different aunts who would cook, and I mainly remember on my dad's side, my Uncle George, my Uncle Jimmy. They probably were about 50s and they mid-50s around that time, maybe 60s. And they would argue from the time they step in the door to the time it was time to go. They argued about politics, they argued about money, they argued about relationships, they argued about food. One time they even had an argument over my Rubik's Cube. But within those arguments, you learned about how politics operated within our area, or you learned about what you can expect out of relationships and with women. You learned about how to just deal with things that were foreign to you as you were growing up. And I think that this is one of the things that is missing from a lot of our young brothers today, is that they don't have the opportunity to sit around the table or sit on that couch in the corner and listen to an Uncle Jimmy and an Uncle George argue about the different things that are going on in life. So this is the purpose of what's been put together for the young brothers out there that don't have that conversation to listen to during the holidays or any other day. My name is Christopher Harrell, and this is A Man's Response.
I appreciate you brothers coming out and having this conversation with us. What I'm going to do is first, I'm going to ask everybody to explain who they are. And what I mean by that is maybe how old you are. I think a good key thing is what year were you born. That'll kind of tie us into what we're going to talk about today. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Not really concerned about where you work, but like maybe what type of work you have done, your family. I'll go off and I'll start, and then maybe that can kind of lead the way. So my name is Christopher Harrell. I was born in 1971. I was born here in St. Louis, Missouri. I have 5 children. I have one 19. I got one, let me think. 11, 10, 7, and 6. I think that's right. If it's not, don't tell my wife. And I work in the financial services arena. That's about it. I think that's some of the information I was looking to get. So I guess we'll start around here with Brother Garrison.
Roland Garrison. Some folks call me Rolo. Most folks call me Coach or Coach G. I'm a educator, public education, taught in the city of St. Louis for about 10 or 12 years, and then I've been in the county district for another 20 plus, 25 plus years. I was born in 57 in St. Louis, born and bred, raised in the public school system. And so I've seen a few things. I've seen some evolution of the system itself, but my mainstay is dealing with kids. I teach engineering, design, drafting, but when folks ask me what do I teach students. Oh, I'm married 31 years to the smartest person I know, and we have 2 kids, one boy who's 26 and a daughter who's 21. They're my weakness. Right?
That's cool.
My name is Jared Arms, 24 years old, born in 1990, and I'm the CEO and founder of Kyler, which is a mobile technology company that enables people to connect and share information. Yeah, I'm single at the moment.
You plan on getting married? Was that mean?
Yeah, down the road.
Down the road.
Nice big family and everything.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah. A little bit about myself, just a young college student right now, going to school for computer science, looking to have a nice, successful business in the future and a nice family and everything. So I'm just starting off right now.
Hello, my name is Etoya Dickerson. A lot of people call me Toy. I am 43 years old, born in 1971. I have 4 beautiful children ranging from the ages of 12 to 5. It's actually 12, 11, 9, and a 5-year-old.
He beat me. He's better than me.
I have been an educator in the past, a real estate agent. I also bartend. I moonlight as a bartender. Just here to share some of my thoughts of what's going on in the community, some of the things that males can hopefully benefit from as well as females, but just to give a different perspective.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is DeMarco Davidson, born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of people call me Marco or Polo. I was born in 1981, and I am 33 years young. I don't know about these other guys. I'm young. And right now, I am happily single. But also, I'm super duper involved in different things in aspects of community. Got a degree in engineering and working for a communications company. And I'm involved, very involved in my church, as well as just became a student into seminary as well. So I grew up seeing a lot been through a lot, but also I know it's for a reason, for a purpose. So I'm excited to see what comes from this. I also mentor a huge amount of children, young men, as well in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. I don't have any kids of my own because I'm allergic to kids. So I don't plan on having any of those anytime soon.
None? You're not having none, bro?
None, zero, zilch. It's enough that don't have fathers around, that need assistance, need help. So that's what I feel I'm called to do at this moment. I'll never say never, but at this moment, right. I don't need any kids coming out looking like me.
Right. So what sparked the idea for this particular conversation is, of course, the civil unrest that we got going on in Ferguson, Missouri. And one way I wanted to approach our conversation is to kind of break it up in different age genres. And basically what I feel is that there's different age brackets of young men, and they're having different feelings or different reactions to what's going on as far as how their perception, what should they be doing, what did they do wrong. And so you tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of broke it down, and I was like, well, I think ages 16 to 19, they pretty much got, they kind of got similar thoughts about whatever those thoughts may be. But I would think that age bracket is pretty on the same thought level. 20 to 32, pretty much probably getting out of college or having to get out the house, having to work, having to produce income, whatever that might be, and starting to think about developing a family. And then all of a sudden they get this sparks off. That's probably huge for people around that age because they don't know where to turn now unless they're getting some really good direction. And then 32 on up, a lot of us, I fall in that age bracket. Is like, well, I done already prepared for retirement, or I'm preparing for retirement, and and I've got my kids all settled in and ready to go, and all of a sudden now this sparks up. Which way are we going? Because it seems like we're reverting back to the 60s. So it's like, man, how do we handle now? I guess the first thing I would want to do is that I want to tackle this 16 and 19-year-old and kind of explain, like, how would you, and I want to go around the room, how would you explain this situation to them? If you sat down and brother say, man, what is all this? Because that age bracket probably don't know what the heck is going on. They probably looking like, why is everybody mad? What's all the big fuss about?
Such a big deal.
Yeah, why is it such a big deal? And then why people hate me because I look different? Like, what's that about? We read about it a little bit in the books, but nobody's really experiencing. You really don't appreciate anything until you experience it yourself. And at least that's my experience. And so I'm not going to start off. I want to kind of ask Rolo if you could just kind of explain, if you had a young brother like Jared or even younger than Jared, how would you explain to them what's going on right now?
Well, actually, I'm a high school teacher, so I've got freshmen through seniors. And so I interact with them daily. And my main thing is to provide to them how you should act, a role model to them. I'm more of a listener to what they need, because I think what that group is they have a lot on their mind, but nobody's listening. They don't feel like anybody's listening to them, So rather than me telling them what to do, I try to be the person that listens to hear what they would like. In terms of my curriculum, we used to say that I want to teach your future, not my past, but there's still a place for my past in your present, So that's one of the things that I try to deal with in terms of the 16 to 19-year-old kids, that are coming through. And I don't want to bust their bubbles because they all have dreams and goals and aspirations. They think they do, but they have a tendency to feel like what their dream, goal, and aspiration is the be-all, the end-all. That's the only thing that's out there for them. So I want to, make sure that they understand that there are other options because, if you're thinking of being a pro athlete, you can do an Achilles or the Sam Bradford knee, and that's that, So they just have to realize that the time frame that they're looking at, they got to think beyond what they're doing. Whatever their goal is, they may not be doing that as long as they think they're going to be doing it. So you got to have a plan B. So
it looks crazy out here. So, what's your perception is basically what you'll be telling them. So if we getting videos, people getting shot, people getting, really getting treated pretty bad. If somebody's saying like Rolo, or Coach G, what's finna happen? Like, what's all this about? Like, where's this coming from? Like, I was cool with a lot of people, and all of a sudden I'm not cool with them no more. Why?
Probably because the path that these kids, the black kids, the path that they're traveling is not the path that the others are traveling. The other people that all of a sudden are not cool with it, or they're coming to those kids and asking them why. And those kids don't know why, it just is, and they're trying to come up with answers to questions that have never been proposed to them. They haven't lived it, but what they have lived, the opposition has not, so you could say it's white privilege. There's kids that grew up having to share rooms, not knowing where their next meal was coming from. And these kids that are asking those kids that had to share a bedroom or had to come up with a meal, they don't know the other side. You know what I mean? In other words, those that get up 5 minutes before school starts and they're at school compared to those that have to get up 2 hours before school starts and ride a bus. So they're asking for answers that are not easily accessible. That's for lack of a better way of putting it.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to ask Toy, because I know me and you had a conversation. You said you had to sit down with your kids and kind of like explain to them what's going on. I mean, your kids are younger than the 16 and 19-year-old, but it's probably similar conversation just with a lighter touch. So how would you explain, like, what's going on? What's your perception of what's going on? And be as real as possible.
To be very honest, I sat down and shared with them the condition that society places African American individuals in this country. And it's pretty much a systematic slavery, a product of slavery. The imagery that they show our young children through the media is not always best. And sometimes these youngsters internalize these images and these sounds that they hear via radio and TV, and they act them out. As far as the Michael Brown situation is concerned, I had to explain to them that it's possible that they're painting a derogatory picture of this young man to excuse what they've done to him, which is basically gun him down in the streets. Mm-hmm. And this imagery through the media that we see helps to build people's perception. But in no way does he deserve to be gunned down in the streets, regardless of what the altercation or the confrontation was prior to. I tried to reinforce to them on a consistent basis, even before the Michael Brown incident, that we are of value regardless of what you read, what you hear, and what you see. I share history with them, our history, not just the history that they give us in the textbook in most public schools, because that just perpetuates and reinforces the mentality that we see in this imagery, So it's all about imagery. And I try to, one thing that I also did, and this is probably profound, and I don't know if people would agree, but I let them know that you're not going to gun my child down in the street. Right. It's going to be a different ball game. It wouldn't have been a need for rides.
Right.
Daddy is here to protect you. That's what God put me on this earth for, is to protect you. And so if we had to go to the extreme, right, because somebody felt like that they can violate you in that manner, then that's what we'll do, because you mean everything to me, right, and not taking anything away from any parents who've been a part of that difficult circumstance, not taking anything away from them. Right. But for me personally, I couldn't live like that. Even with being here with, some people would say, hey, but you have other children. You would be prepared to end it all like that. I wouldn't be able to look my other kids in the face, knowing that I just sat to the side and allowed somebody to gun them down in the street like that. So you can take that wherever you want to go with it. Wow, what would he do? Yeah, take it wherever your mind would go with that. Right. But it's a time, it has to stop. Right. Because I was truly affected by when I was having this conversation with my kids, I was in tears. Yeah. Not just regular tears, this was like, from the heart, from the heart tears. Right. And I was hugging them and we were praying. I just told them to keep their heads up, always, try to be respectful. If there's anything that you feel like is in violation of you, you immediately get on the phone and call your father. Mm-hmm. I reassured them of that. But you carry yourself a certain type of way. You be observant. You be respectful. All of these things, I go on and on with them. I try to reinforce with them on a consistent basis, because we are living in that type of society, where, it's almost like the sheep mentality. Even when I look on social network and I have, I don't have a problem with the ALS challenge at all. But, you know, it's a sheep mentality. Look, you know, you got so many people pouring buckets of ice and water over their head for a disease that doesn't necessarily affect African Americans.
Right.
And historically, it was a technique used by slave masters to break slaves and often kill slaves.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, that's where we are.
Imagery.
We don't understand where we are. We don't understand the conditions. We don't know our history. And that's why some of these tragic things are taking place in our neighborhoods and in our communities, because we don't know. And when you talk about that age group, that adolescent to teenage years, they are the most vulnerable because they don't know. You know, and oftentimes they're being raised by individuals who don't know, you know, and so it leaves them susceptible to all the crimes and punishments and wrongdoings and bad decisions that can truly affect your life in an adverse way. You know, so I just, you know, I'm constantly in teacher mode with my children. Actually, I was an educator for 20 plus years, but it was taking a toll on me to the point where I couldn't in turn come home and educate my own children. So I had to take a step back from that because I felt like my kids were, you know, the priority at this point. And not saying I'm giving up on education, because even young brothers I see on the street, I educate. But, you know, right now I have to focus on my immediate family and make sure they are okay. Plus I wasn't getting paid. You know, I need those resources to take care of my kids. But I mean, you know, I will return because that's my passion. I love to teach. I feel like our community needs more teachers, even though you may not be in the teacher's capacity or in education. We need to turn around, and when we see a young brother on the street with his pants below his butt, let him know, son, you can't be a soldier with your pants below your butt. You know, you can't flee, you can't fight, you can't, you know, stand up for yourself, and the perception that you're giving off is less than human. We have to do those things. We have to encourage young kids to do better, you know, and to want better. Till we do that, you know, it's the age-old it takes a village, you know, and we need to get back to that if we're going to save our seeds out here, and we're going to be a community that can be respected in the eyes of the world.
Toy, I got to interject here that you're 100% right. Your willingness to teach your own is what's lacking in a lot of other kids that's out there. They don't have that father or that uncle or the, in my case, the Mr. Philpott across the street or the Mr. Johnson down the way, to be that village, to raise, you know, because I was raised at home, but then I was raised by my next door neighbors. And then when I got to school, I was raised by teachers who had taught my uncles and my cousins. And, you know, in this day and age, the generations that's coming through now, me seeing it firsthand, you know, I'm the only black male teacher in my building.
Wow.
You know, the only black man. And it's been that way for 20 years at the building that I'm at. I'm the only face that they see that's no strings attached, you know. So I try to be the father or the uncle or the cousin that they can come through those doors and look to. You know, we don't have that village that we used to have, you know, even when I came through. And I think that's what creates that sense of confusion or lostness, you know, in that group, that age group of kids that's out there, because there's nobody that they can go home to school them like you do with your kids, like I did with my kids, you know. And
they
sometimes I don't think,
it's like I mean, my kids. The scary thing is that the kids got to figure out what to do, and so they don't have a clue. Just imagine what they come up with. Like, all right, let's keep it real. My wife, she works in the morning on the weekends. I'm supposed to be feeding the kids. I ain't doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm still in the bed asleep. But so they hungry, and now they get to the point where they feel like they can do stuff on their own. Bro, when you see what they create to eat, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's like, what? I mean, my son Zion, I mean, he puts together some stuff, and like I would never touch. So I mean, you got to realize you take that on a higher level. What you do on the small level is what you do on the higher level. So I would say now your young son encounters foolishness or anger or hatred in the streets, and he hasn't had any guidance or anybody to supervise that.
He thinks it's okay.
Just think what he might create. You know what I'm saying? What might be something that he might think might be a resolution. It might just be totally off. So
Right.
But
So
DeMarco,
I want to,
I wanted to look, since you mentor a lot of young brother, what would you tell him?
So, I want to comment on a couple of different things.
Right, cool.
I find it interesting that certain words and certain vocabulary words, people have new words like civil unrest. Like this word has been, not you, but people have been talking about civil unrest. But at the same time, honestly, I can't remember the last time I felt rested being a civilian of St. Louis or being a civilian or African American civilian.
Wow. Deep,
so to me, we've had civil unrest before I was born. Always. I try to think of you right before we started. You had mentioned how the difference between a response and a reaction. React is normally is negative. Response is normally somewhat at least more of a positive solution. But I try to remember what was my response, my reaction when I first heard that a cop shot a black teenager. And to be honest, I was like, Again.
We desensitized.
And that's when I was like, wait a minute, something is wrong with this picture. The fact that, I remember being an 18-year-old. I remember being pulled over in pretty much Ferguson, Florissant, and Calverton Park, being pulled over. I was leaving a party. I was the president of this organization. I left the party, me and my cousin. We were riding, and the party was extremely successful. I was president of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, football player, all these great things, going to college, but yet I get pulled over. And they say, your car looked like a car that was involved in some type of mischief or something. They didn't just tell me. Long story short, I find myself handcuffed on the corner with me and my cousin. And I'm like, what is going on? And when I get home to my mom, she did the best she could, but she's like, well, baby, that's just the way it is. And I was like, no, that's not just the way it is. And that's not the way it's going to be. And unfortunately, at that moment, I knew something was wrong with the direction that we were heading towards in America. But when it comes to the young people, especially those who are teenagers or even the young adults, to be honest. I was out on West Florissant near Ground Zero. I don't know why they call the burnt down Quick Trip Ground Zero. To me, that's not a good idea, but that's a whole nother story. And unfortunately, truth be told, and I actually spoke with Mike Brown's mom yesterday, and she actually said that, she's asked people to calm down. She asked them not to riot, things like that. And she even said like, well, hey, you can only not listen to somebody for so long before they try to get your attention some other way. So she was like, I don't like what they're doing. She's like, I'm going to focus on my son and focusing on getting justice for him. Same time, she's like, I can't control them because it's been going on for so long. These systems that have been in place have been going on before Mike Brown was even born, before the majority of us were even born as well. And it's just amazing to see some of the different things that have come up. And we have to basically take care and protect our own, we have to recreate that village. And that's the toughest, that's the biggest challenge. Many of us don't know our neighbors to our right, to our left of us. But yeah, we say, we need to create a village. There's too many parents. I'm not saying all, but it's too many parents. Because I go to parent-teacher conferences for kids that's not mine. And I go there and there's always seats. There's always seats available. Right. So it's not overcrowded. It's not jam-packed. Teachers are not taking appointments for parents anymore. I remember teachers used to say, hey, who come in at 2:30? Who's coming at 3 o'clock? It's not like that anymore. It's like, hey, we're here, and if they come, great, And
they surprised sometimes they surprised when they see somebody.
When somebody show up.
Exactly. Yeah. And, as a mentor, what I've learned as a mentor is that I've actually had to not just mentor the children, but also mentor the parents and how to deal and how to work within certain systems or school systems. For a quick example, I went to school with one of the parents, and her son is very, very active and slightly mischievous every once in a while. And we went, and long story short, the person who gave us the grades, before he gave us the grades, it was a white counselor. And he said, he's doing fine. He's doing okay, and his behavior gets out of hand a little bit every once in a while. Something. I was like, no. They're like, what's going on? Like, let me see these grades. And, for him to say he's doing well, then why is there an F on his report card?
Right. That's
and I was like, I'm like, Mama, I need you to get mad at this F. Right. This is a reflection on you. And she didn't really understand it at first, but now she did. And then she ended up stealing the little dude. I'm like, dang, she just So, but, Toy brought up the fact that we need to not allow the images to penetrate our youth as well, or not allow what the media is telling them as well. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't the best role model in the world. He was not the best role model. He was involved in several different things. He was a firefighter by day and a drug dealer by night, but he's pretty classy about it, right? And he taught me 4 these are the only 4 things my daddy ever taught me, right? Taught me how to eat a chicken wing, like piece by piece, right? It's a style, okay? He taught me that wrestling was fake, but the athleticism was real. He also taught me how to roll a joint. He taught me how to roll a joint. So I know how to roll a tight joint, if anybody want to know. But I've never haven't smoked since sophomore year of high school, right? But then he also told me that the gangsters, people, the rappers and all that are not real. Everybody that talks this much or says this much, most likely is not doing what they really doing, else they would go to jail or either end up dead. Right. And we even saw in the 90s or the early 2000s when gangster rap really became gangster. And then people was like, oh, wait a minute, whoa. Right. This is getting out of hand. There's too many rappers dying. And, you know, the fact that Jay-Z's mom had to get involved. And she's like, baby, you need to stop this right now. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, we not gangsters. Let's quit.
His mom came out and told
Well, when he had the beef with Nas, the whole, you know, Blueprint, Ether, you know, and she was like, baby, you know, you need to stop this. This is getting out of hand. The whole East Coast, West Coast thing. So, long story short, we have to, and I appreciate being able to have these conversations like this, so we can have a better understanding of how to not allow these images to and I'm glad you brought it up, Toy. You know, he said images. One thing that literally God blessed me to see, it was the Friday they released the Mike Brown tape as well as Darren Wilson's name. Okay? So it was just frustrating because I was also in a meeting on Tuesday night where the Ferguson police chief as well as the St. Louis County police chief, both of them said that we can't release the cop's name until he's charged. So they released his name on Friday with no charges. Right. So once again, that means that's one of the huge issues that a lot of people are having is the lack of transparency in the police force. But then they released this tape and they released these videos and released these pictures. So I was in a restaurant having a conversation and the volume was on, but it was hard for me to hear. Right. And every once in a while I could hear the newscast person saying, you know, Mike Brown allegedly stole, he allegedly did this, he could have did this, this might have been him in the tape. It was a bunch of if, could have been, might, maybe, you know. Mm-hmm. But when I couldn't hear, all I saw was a big, burly black guy overpowering a little Indian clerk with the caption, police, Mike Brown steals from store. Mm-hmm. That's all I could see. So I was like, wait a minute, it's the images. And we are, as humans, as the creatures we are, we remember in pictures. You know,
especially men, though.
Especially men. Especially young men. Right. You know, so we wonder why we saw all of this huge influx of movies. We had more movies like about gangsters and crime in the 90s, like from the New Jack City, which is almost glamorized. Sure. Colors, Scarface. Right. All these movies that glamorize and all of them come to a tragic ending. Like everybody had a tragic ending, but it was that moment there were those people, you know, shined or they lived. And unfortunately, we have a huge amount of young people who never really learned how to listen to a masculine voice due to whether it's a lack of fathers or whatever case may be. So they since they did not have that, they got fed and filled with whatever the world was telling them that they should be, whether it was a ball player or a rapper or a gangster or a drug dealer. Right. And they talk, you know, it's all type of coverage, all type of statistics about how media shows criminals versus things like that as well. Once again, like if you really want to know what the message the media is really trying to share with people, just press the mute button. And those pictures are going to show you exactly what they want you to see and what you want you to think and how it's burnt into your brain and stuff like that. So,
and the kids today, they, from my perspective, they don't know. Mm-hmm. They really don't know. They think they know, but they don't know. And the thing is they don't know that they don't know. Right. You know, that's probably the most important thing out of this is that they really believe that what they're doing or what they're thinking is what is. I mean, my wife, again, the smartest person I know, you know, you hear folks talking about a sense of entitlement. You know, kids feel like they should have this or they should have that. You know, but the truth of the matter is that's what they feel like they should have is all they've ever known. You know, and it's not that they feel entitled to it. They don't feel it. They don't even know the word entitlement. They just know that this is all that I've ever known.
This is my norm.
This is my norm. Yeah, right. You know, and from that perspective, that's where they start. You know,
so we've let that norm be skewed.
And a kid has to be, and there's so many different issues here, but a kid has to be able to be a kid. You know, a kid should not have to be the adult in the house. You know, a kid should be able to come home from school and go out and play till the street lights come on or however you want to, you know, whatever genre you came through. But a kid should be able to be a kid before, who's learning chores, you know, taking care of their little things around the house but they should not have to be a grown up. And now we're putting kids in grown up positions.
Little brothers and sisters. Yeah.
And they get so used to doing that, they start thinking that this is the way it's supposed to be done because that's all they've ever known.
Right.
You know? That's generational.
Yeah.
You know, they suffer from a lack of supervision, a lack of guidance.
Exactly.
You know, if mom, you know, I've had students in the past who've told me, hey, you know, my mom ain't been home in 2 days, Mr. D. You know, and I'm like, wow, you know, you 15 years old, you know, and your mom hasn't been home in 2 days. And then I realized you have younger siblings.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a heavy burden. So imagine putting up with the oppression, you know, of being in poverty. You know, imagine being in the elements of poverty and also dealing with systematic racism at the same time. With no guidance, no supervision, because even though you may be stuck in an urban environment, there are still elements of racism within that environment, you know, that could possibly alter or, you know, influence your life.
To the negative.
To the negative. Yes, sir.
Right.
So, you know, imagine these kids, you know, at some point, you're going to lash out. You're going to be angry because you realize, you know, growing up, I realized, you know, and one thing I must attest to, I had a powerful mother. She probably was a revolutionary and probably instilled that revolutionary mentality in me. You know, it was it was always, but she taught me respect too at the same time. You know, she told me about pockets of St. Louis and Illinois that you didn't travel in. You know, you didn't go deep on the south side. You didn't go to Wood River, Illinois. You didn't ride through there. And if you were encountered by a police officer, it was yes, sir, no, sir. And you got a badge and you showed them your hands. I had to explain this. I had to reteach this to my children, you know, and they're young kids, you know, how you respect the police officer. But at times that doesn't matter. You know, if that police officer that's untrained in these different municipalities that's been rejected by major police departments, you know, wakes up with a heart on, you know, for your black child. You know, it doesn't matter if you hit them with 1,000 yes sirs and no sirs and be respectful and have a positive tone and a passive body language. Sometimes that police officer will still take privilege to inflict his authority on you, you know, and so, you know, it's, you know, it's a thin line, you know, you almost wonder, you know, what could possibly be the cure for what we are experiencing, you know, and I just believe we definitely, you know, now I'm going to go off on a tangent. We, you know, within that village of raising our children, we also have to circulate that dollar so that we can make better choices or we can decide who is actually policing our neighborhoods, what politicians are involved in our neighborhoods, what type of education our kids receive in our school system. Because in all honesty, I felt like a pawn at times inside an educational center that the oppressor systematically runs. You know what I'm saying? I felt like a pawn because that wasn't truly the education that I wanted to give to them. And sometimes, you know, if you step outside those boundaries, they'll find a way to push you back in and say, hey, no, that's not what you're teaching. That's not on the map test. You know, why would that be a part of your lesson plan? You know, so, you know, you have to be very careful, man. Sometimes the very system that we patronize turns against us, works against us. And all these things have been, you know, have come to light for me, you know, as an African-American male, my time here on this earth and my time here in the city of St. Louis, because I grew up in it. I understand it. You know, you couldn't ride down Lucas and Hunt. I had a 79 Regal and my grandmother gave it to me in the trunk. You know, the back lock was out on the trunk. You know, I had to use a screwdriver to pop it open sometime. And lo and behold, law enforcement found a way every time to use that as a reason to stop me, search me, pull me over, harass me. And these were the same police every other day. You know who I am. You know, I've given you this explanation time and time again, you know, and I mean, it just hit home because in high school, I experienced that police brutality. They handed us a brand new one on Natural Bridge. And what was significant about that is it was the black police that actually initiated it. You know, he was more riled up and angry than the white policemen were. You know, and so we took liberty to come over and punch my friend in the face. Now, I must admit, my friend didn't get the same education that I received from his parents, I assume, because he jumped out the car chanting a familiar song that was on the radio all the time by NWA, F the Police.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so he was upset because they were locking his cousin up who was under a false warrant. The warrant wasn't legit. It was actually another gentleman in his name, but they proceeded to lock him up.
Right.
And so he got upset and he jumped out the car. Oh, y'all locking my cousin up. Man, F the police. You know? And so the black cop, you know, that must
Lost it.
He lost it. And he came over and commenced to handing him a new one, you know. And so we all in handcuffs, you know, experiencing this, you know, the whole school
lose.
Yeah.
You know,
The whole school knew about it, man. It was a big thing at the time, you know. But it could have went all the way left.
Nowadays, it probably would have went.
You know what I'm
crazy.
saying? It could have went all the way left. You know, that's been on my mind here lately. Like how many encounters I've had with law enforcement that could have possibly been the end of me. You know, my demise.
And that's the scary part. And
That's
I think that's the thing that resonates with this whole entire situation that every African American male can relate to.
Yeah.
In America, literally, that man, that could have been me, or that could have been my son, or that could have been my wife, daughter, whatnot. Like, because we've all had those incidents, and those cops are like, or those run-ins, like, really, why am I getting pulled over? Like, seriously, why am I getting pulled over? And sometimes people are riding dirty. Okay, so I mean, we're not making an excuse for cops doing their job. We still want police to police. Right. You know, at the same time, you know, I get frustrated when, and I understand when people say it. I get frustrated when people say, "Oh, if you don't know your rights, you don't have rights." I'm sorry, we're still American citizens. We still have the right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's still we have those American rights
unless
still,
everybody
whether we know them
lawyers
or not.
Unless everybody lawyers, nobody knows everything.
Exactly,
Right,
and then and that's one thing, you know, I want to bring up about even the law. Like, this is why it's so frustrating, because you brought up so much, man. I'll be happy. That's why I have to write stuff down, so I won't get too far off.
Well, but there's so much out there.
Exactly.
We behind enemy lines, and we in our own country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's just so many things. You can't put your finger on one, and that's to solve it all.
Right.
You know, you just can't.
Right.
There's just so much out there.
Right. So I was having a similar conversation like this with some friends on Wednesday night, and one of them he said, you know, I just don't understand why, you know, people will go and tear up their own neighborhood and all this other stuff, and then, you know, us as the taxpayers, we got to pay for that. And I just had to break it down for them. Like, one, you saying they own neighborhood, they don't own anything in those neighborhoods. We don't own anything.
That's right.
You said, getting back to the economics, like, we got the African American dollar is not recycled at all. Like, we get our money and it's going out the neighborhood. But there's reasons for that, and we can work towards that systematically down the road, you know. But then he said, brought up tax dollars. Like, well, you know, he talking about the tax dollars, you know, helping out the businesses get back up and running and whatnot. But it's also our tax dollars that also pay the police. Those same tax dollars are still paying Darren Wilson right now, who's on paid leave. Those same tax dollars pay for his gun and the bullets. And I'm tired of, you know, our tax dollars, you know, whether it's our dollars or whatnot, but our tax dollars, you being used to basically oppress us. Like, we're paying for our own oppression.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So I want Brother Jared hasn't had time to say anything, but I want to ask him a question. But I want to definitely go back to, like, the initial question, like, and I'm gonna talk about myself. So my kids they go to a predominantly white school, but it's still a diverse place. And one of the things I had to be careful of giving my kids that you want them to be revolutionary. I'm not saying I don't, but you want them to definitely be shrewd about it. And I didn't want them going to school saying, I hate everybody that don't look like me. And I don't want them to take away from that. And actually, I don't believe that. Everybody that don't look like me hates me. I don't believe that.
Right.
So what I tend to use I use the term as an element. And I told them point blank, I said, there's an element in society that doesn't like you. Right. There's an element that has a deep hatred for you. And some of it is based on how you look. And I said, I can't explain where it came from. I don't want to know where it came from, because I don't want to have anything I want to be like that. I said, but that element is here. And you have to be understanding that even though that element is here, you can't trust that element, because that element is a lie. It's a lie. That element tells you that you only going to be so much in life, or you only going to make so much, or you only should stay in this lane because of the way you look. That element is a lie. And you have to be careful to make sure that you constantly are, I guess,
cognizant of it.
Cognizant of it, and also just reassuring yourself that you are okay. You know, and like you Toy said, and these images are huge. They're huge. And I always pointed out, and I've said this to you before, I said, slavery, some of the things that we do, the way that we don't recycle our dollar, the way that we fight against each other, the way that we just don't take time out to take care of our health, those are the things have trickled down from slavery. Those are just the way we operate. We operate at the very minimum, and it comes from father to father or whoever it comes down from generation to generation. So some of the things that we have that we got to correct are results of slavery. I say that to say is that evil slave master mentality, that hatred, why do we think all of a sudden that it just got cut off in somewhere and everybody and slavery is just, and racism just gone, or just that element of hatred is gone? No, you'd be foolish. And because the reason why I think it's so tricky is that you can be right next to somebody on a day-to-day basis and y'all can have the best conversations. I'm talking about your coworkers. And that let something like this go down. Mm-hmm. That person is a totally different person. Is a totally different individual, because what comes out, just like us in this whole situation, we then all of a sudden we came together. We all of a sudden now we started figuring out survival mode. We try let's keep it real. Everybody talking about what guns we gonna get. What guns we gonna get. What house we gonna stay at. We're in that. All of a sudden now we got to go back to the slave mentality, and we got to say we got to protect ourselves. Well, okay, now they're in the mentality like, wait a minute, we got the white. How dare you? I've seen a video where this lady, I could see it in her eyes. She was yelling at a black dude. Of course, it was a Facebook video. She was yelling at this black dude, and somebody was videoing. She's like, you get in the camera. She's like, how dare you talk to me this way? Get out of my face. Get out of this. She told him to get out of an apartment complex. Get out of here right now. And I was like, wow, she really mean that. She's like, how dare you speak to me in any other manner but respectful and get out of my presence? I don't even want to see you. So that's kind of where that element is right now. It's kind of resurfaced. Yeah. And so by resurfacing, explaining this to these kids, you can kind of, I believe that's my goal, is just kind of explain to them, like, look, this element was always here. It's been suppressed for a little while. And now it's kind of showing its ugly face again, and you're going to have to just talk to me. It's communication is going to, because really I can't explain what's the next move. I can't explain what's going to happen next. This guy gets off, which I believe he will. I don't know how to explain what's going to be. We're going to have to work together and figure out what's the best way. Do we, to handle every situation that you're in.
They say divide and conquer. I say we need to reunite and overcome, because I think back to the neighborhood that I grew up in. I grew up on Page and Kings Highway, a couple of blocks from there. You had Reed's Ice Cream. It's like the Velvet Freeze and the Baskin Robbins, but owned and operated by a black family. You had Taylor Sausage, still going on. Yeah, they're still going on. You had Heights Delicatessen. You had Spencer's Cleaners. You had the Five Spot. All of these black-owned and operated businesses in our community, and they all looked out for everybody in the community. Even the so-called gangsters or thugs in our community that didn't do anything, they still looked out for our community. I used to want to be like Tim. Tim had hush puppies and a leather jacket, and I wanted to be like Tim. And Tim was like, I thought that was just cool. Everybody thought that was cool. But Tim was like, nah, you look smart. You go on and play baseball, or you go on and do this. And I'm coming back from Wold Center playing ball, gonna stop off at the White Castles, get me a mix and a couple of cheeseburgers. And the Ridge boys stepped to me. Hey, bro, you got the time? Well, that's when you look at your watch, and that's when you take the beat down. And as I got ready to know this is what's getting ready to happen to me, okay, I hear a whistle across the street, and I look across the street. Sitting on the rail is Tim, the guy who said, don't be like me. But he been following me to all my baseball practices and all my football practices. He opens up his jacket, shows his piece. They like, all right, bro, I'm gone, And then he waves on to me to tell me to go on. That's when I start to realize, and I'm looking at my practices, there's Tim up in the background. He got a brown sack and a donut, but him and some buddies, they handle it, But he's looking out for me. 3, 4, 5, 8 blocks away from my house. I don't know how many games he came to of mine. But I don't know what became of him, but I know that not only were the businesses looking out for us as we were coming up, but the people were looking out for us. So we got to reunite.
Okay, so we covered to explain what's going on. Right now, Jerry, you fall under the 20 to 32 range. And I guess want to get your perspective on, what do you think is going on right now? How's it affecting you? Just where your feelings at right now about this whole situation?
Pretty much just to the fact where, like you were saying, everybody was saying earlier, where we just kind of conditioned to the fact, went to a few funerals, first start going crying, boo hoo ha ha, my friend, to the point where it's just like, tears, nothing, people going in there bragging about their war wounds and all that, to the point where it just had to, I had to stop going to them, and I'm still pretty young. What you were saying was 16 through 19, of course, don't nobody just want to die, nothing like that, but it's crazy out here right now. That's pretty much just like the game right now, trying to get them to get out that mentality. That's pretty kind of hard, especially for somebody like me. So it pretty much make me angry because the people who lost don't really know that they lost. For the ones who just acting silly and stuff, that's kind of explanatory. But for the ones who really lost, and that's just what kind of gets me angry, because I know blacks as a whole, we really do need to unite like snow just to be like real powerful versus just like a little snowflake. Right. When we all come together, we could do damage in a good way. We don't really have nothing like, I know everything I got down to this pen, phone, box of socks, glasses, everything, nothing owned by a black company.
Right.
But it's like I'm promoting all their products. No matter if I'm doing my business or whatever, it's still something in it. And I'm starting to learn now, especially being a young guy, because I was like ignorant to the whole movie of Roots and all that. So when I finally had, got into some little mess and stuff in my younger days and watched it and learned the history, how everything came together, it's just freedom from this point on and survival. But I ain't know nothing about how this country was set up. I'm just on some St. Louis stuff. Right. And I remember how lost I was completely. I mean, completely. Like, I was looking forward to being the next one on the shirt. So I'm just finna go a little bit hard and put in some more stuff just so I could have a bigger rep. Wow. I'm looking forward to that. And now it's like, now when I think about that, it's like, I could never think like that again. I understand how it could be like that. So it's pretty cool. Not cool to say they should be damaged and stuff, but it's like when you really think about it, when they say slavery, they killed over 500 black men. It's not even 500 million black men alive today. And they killed them just in slavery. So It's like, as far as like lynching them in front of their families and like killing them, throwing them off the boats, it's like, yeah, I could take a window for a few rims or two. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's just karma, like for some 300 years ago stuff. And it's like, it's way more to come. Way more to come. It's just like a little scratch, but the beatdown has yet to come.
All right. And that's one thing that I've been sharing up with people as well, is that our DNA has history. It has memory. Our DNA has memory. And I've seen this when, for example, unfortunately, my brother, he was not involved in his son's life for real. I met his son when his son was like 16, and I met him, and he was drawing the same way my brother drew. He drew the same exact way. He rapped and played basketball the same way my brother did, but yet he did not see my brother do any of this. Right. So that lets me know that our DNA has memory. So if, like Jared said, those who made it through the Atlantic Passage, whatnot, or those who survived through slavery, those who survived through all the different periods of segregation, of racism, of hatred, all of these different things still go through us today. Yeah, like you said, slavery didn't stop. That type of hatred didn't stop. At the same time,
put on another uniform.
Yeah, it just put on a different uniform, a different system. One thing I always talk about is systems. I love the word system because I learned it in engineering. And the word system, SYSTEM, is an acronym for save yourself some time, energy, and money. And we look at different things. We look at certain things that have systems. We look at education system. Who is saving time, energy, and money for this quote unquote education system? Toy brought up the fact that he didn't like teaching. I'm saying I was the same reason. I quit teaching for the same exact reason. They was like, oh, you got to teach towards a test. And it's already scientifically proven and statistically proven that whenever you teach towards a test, the aspect of education and learning and developing oneself decreases exponentially. But yet, so we look at that. So we have an education system. But then somehow, some way, and no one has yet to, still to this day, no one has yet to show me the actual study or the test that show the correlation between 3rd, 4th grade literacy, reading ability to the quote unquote prison system, or like how many prisons they need to build. But yet everybody know this. They're like, oh, we know how many prisons we need to build based off of 3rd, 4th graders reading level. But nobody's ever showed me this. But yet somehow somebody made a correlation between an education system and the prison system. And so I'm not going to go too far because I don't want to get this building bombed. But, the thing is, prisons have become privatized as well as state ran. So we have a state test that's failing our state education system, but yet we have a prison system and the state is profiting off the prison system. Then why are we so surprised, that our young people, and if you look at the school systems, it's not catered towards boys in general, but young African American boys, we're struggling. And I'll end with this. My pastor said a great statement. He said anything public was never meant for progression. It was meant for maybe stability, maybe to get up on your feet, but not for progression. So we have a public school system. It's not meant for you to get to Yale or Harvard, but we got a public school system. Right. We have
public transportation.
We'll get you to
we're going to get you to the right where it stops.
We're going to get you from East St. Louis to maybe Kirkwood.
Right.
But that's going to be about it.
You ain't going to
we got public aid, we got public assistance, public health. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for a cure for cancer. Okay, it's meant for just like, hey, take these pills and hopefully you don't die as soon as you could possibly die. Right. So we have to get.
We'll make a lot of money off you.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's another thing. Yeah, man. So I'm gonna stop that, man. But yeah.
That's interesting, man. The system. I like that word too, DeMarco, because it's so much a part of our being. But there's one topic that we haven't touched on, and it's so touchy. It's such a gentle, emotional tug of war, and that's religion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't knock any religions because I believe that all religious doctrine has, your welfare, your good behind the text. I believe all of it saying, hey, look, do good, be kind to your neighbor,
love,
love, I believe that, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, Buddhism, whatever it is, I believe at the end of the text is saying, hey, be a good neighbor, love. But people internalize and interpret the word regardless of what text it come from, the way they feel or deem necessary. And when you talk about our people, it is consistently creating a divide between our people. And that is the system. Because if I am Muslim and you are Christian, it's hard for us to sit down at a table and come to some sort of terms, a level of agreement, because the dogma that exists in these religions, and, I can go back historically, Christians had to dog Islam, Islam had to dog Christianity because this was a part of your crusade. In order to convert humans over into what you believe, there had to be a sense of dogma attached to it. So, that's historical. So, now fast forward to America where you have Africans in different religions and believe different things. And you're saying, hey, we have to come together collectively. That's difficult because we believe in different things. If you notice about any culture, any ethnic group, any people that are thriving and progressing in America, they all believe the same thing. Why you think we mentioned the Jew so much, Jewish individuals, because their dollar recirculates in their community tenfold, whereas our dollar leaves our community within 6 hours, where they recirculate their dollar. So that helps to build wealth for them. It helps to create unity for them. I remember working at a country club out on Ladue Road, Ballas. Was it Ballas or Ladue? Ballas Road, a Jewish country club, Broad and Dugan. I don't know if you remember Broad and Dugan Paint. I remember sitting around listening to these gentlemen because I was serving them coffee and, serving them breakfast and lunch. And I would, kind of be ear hustling. And whenever a Jewish man, would buy up some properties or he needed some paint, it was without a doubt he was going to get his paint from Broad. Broad was the really sole owner. There really was no Dugan. It was made up. That's how I learned that too. But he would get his paint from Broad. And whenever paint was needed, they got it from Broad. And it was similar throughout that discussion sitting at that table. If a Jewish man had a particular resource, you wouldn't dare step outside of that circle to patronize someone else.
Even if it was cheaper.
Even if it was cheaper. Even if it was cheaper. You would not do that. Right. So these are the things I picked up on, and I looked out the window to see, and I mean, this is just material, but Broad had a Rolls Royce. He had a nice home. All of them did. When the bar mitzvahs came around, that these kids had brand new Hondas, brand new BMWs. If I can recollect, it cost $25,000 a year just to belong to this club. and I'm thinking, man, I don't think my mama makes $25,000 a year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But this is all systematic. We have to find a way to break these barriers amongst ourselves. And it has to even start through religion. We have to learn tolerance. If that's what you believe, that is beautiful. Just be my brother. And I will be tolerable to you believing in what you believe, and I believe in what I believe, but we still can sit down at the table and love and share and connect and build. Those things, is what's missing from our communities. We have to find a way to be one culture again. Until we do that, then we're going to stay divided, amongst ourselves, because we're divided. They had this show, the show BAPS, they were going on about how they were the privileged and they were looking down on other brothers because they may have had some difficult times in life. It made me sick. A side of me wanted the show to succeed because I want to see black people succeed, but a side of me was like, what is this mess?
Destroying
who's a black African princess
Didn't even watch
from the city of St. Louis? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Who told you that? You know what I'm saying? Who told you were more privileged than somebody else, and you look down on somebody because they may have not had the resources that you had? Who allowed you to feel like that? So, I just, we have to get away from that type of, ideology, man, about ourselves and who we are, because at the end of the day, when we all strip down, we're just human beings, even for our good old white folk that feel like they better than us. They're just human beings. We're really part of the human race first, and we're black second.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I love my people. And because, the system attempts to oppress or oppresses my people, I fight for them, because I want to see us do better. I want to erase that negative imagery that they try to portray of us. I want to erase how, white folks feel about us. Well, we set you free. You ought to be grateful. What do you mean? I just, I get fed up. I get tired. They don't see it. They don't see it. But I'm here to help them see it. I'm here to help my kids see it. So then that's the only way we're going to change is when we confront it face to face. Instead of trying to walk around it or go around it or go under it. We have to go through it face to face. We have to sit down and have these discussions.
I want to comment on one thing. Exactly what you said is as far as that. I'm speaking on economics. Number that you say something, Jared. I'm sorry. That economic thing is huge, and I think sometimes people are scared or like they don't want to say exactly what may be something as radical as what I'm about to say. But I'm not even confident that this whole situation is based on racism.
No, it's not.
It's not, and so because let me tell you something. If this happened, say you had a bunch of kids that was acting a fool in Ladue, and Ladue kids were acting crazy, and all of a sudden it was time for law enforcement to step in. You best believe that the influences, the powerful influence, and that key word is power, powerful influence that are in Ladue or Chesterfield or in those affluent areas, wherever the affluent area may be, are not going to allow those type of tanks or aggressive behavior or things like that. They're not going to allow that to come into it. And that it's not going to happen while marching. There's going to be phone calls. That's where that power comes in at. That power, that father that's built that whatever dynasty is going to call and say, I know what you want to do, but you're not going to do that in my neighborhood. You're not going to do that to my kid. You're not going to put my children and family in jeopardy. So let's cut that action out and let's find another plan.
Go to your next plan.
Yeah, let's go to the next plan. That's not going to happen. Unfortunately, we don't have that type of power. We don't have any bargaining power.
Right.
We don't have, there's nobody that, there's maybe, I don't know, but from my understanding, there's nobody that could have called Ferguson Police Department and said, I understand there's a problem. Let's figure out a better way than what you're doing to solve that problem. Because we don't have that bargaining power, then people are left that might be influenced by the element to make their own decisions on how they're going to rectify the problem. And then, as we can see,
we get what we get.
We get what we get.
Right.
And so that power is huge, and I think we're scared because we don't want to be power hungry. It's not necessarily we're not power hungry. We are where we are. We're in America. What drives America is money and power. So you want something to occur, or you want a certain result to happen. Those elements have to be a part of It has to be a part of what your plot is.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have it, that's not. It's just where we at. Unless you're going to create another country for yourself, which I'm sure a lot of people are, have had that thought process. You're going to have not necessarily, I don't want to say failure, but you're going to have a really tough time achieving that goal.
Right.
Let me interject something real fast before Jared goes. I need to interject this on power because power is connected to racism. I hear people all the time, try to connect racism to a black person. Oh, he's racist, but the person is black. I don't believe that. I don't believe black people can be racist. No. In order to be racist, racism, to inflict racism on another group of people, you have to have the power to oppress. You know what I'm saying? So that comes with that economic dollar and that influence and, being able to hold another group back, systematically. You know what I'm saying? So racism is attached to power. You have to have the power to oppress another group of people.
Right. You can be prejudiced.
You can be prejudiced. Black person can be prejudiced, but he can't be racist.
I'm going to share something after Jared gets in sharing as well.
One of my friends and I, the other day, we did this little test at this mobile. This is mobile that we usually go to pay for some gas, support the company. But it was one of the mobiles that got hit up with the whole protesting and everything. So I went in there first with one of our flyers for the programming class, instead of having all these kids out, especially with this dangerous stuff going on, they could have, a peaceful environment and be in this class, learn some technology, doing something good. No, I don't want to do this. No. So my friend, he had a CD with just pure negative directions on there. Basically, we was just to kind of research what he was on, and he listened to it. Oh, okay, cool. So like you guys were saying, there's one thing where they may not even go outside their circle, even if it's cheaper. But when you try to bring it to the neighborhood, and you got to still see its gatekeepers and all of that. We got another little application that we got called the Weave app just to help people out with like hair products and services. And we got different Chinese men all the way out the country, Japan, Asia, China, got King's Beauties in like the ghettoest places ever in LA, some in Chicago and stuff. And they daughters over there dressing in crowns, literally like they shields or something, like they some Kingsmen or something. And these people, they just getting it. And they don't have no clue about that stuff. And then when I do the research with the technology stuff, it's way more blacks than it is just, developers as just consumers. Even with the teachers that I have that's white, some of their dreams is just to, kind of help break that digital divide.
I ain't never seen no black person in one of those beauty stores. I mean, a white person. I never seen no. That's just me.
Right. That's crazy. So, and then when we look at our map to see people that's just using Kyler, it's like it's way more people in America that's using it, but they just using it for entertainment purposes. But for blacks, it's not, it's just, and then the people that we got working for us, all my market researchers are Chinese women, all my developers are like from India. So that's why we try to teach, the blacks how to do this stuff. But they skipping out on a big, even back then in the 70s and 80s when all the little Microsoft and Apple stuff was booming, they was still skipping that because that's for them was all the gang stuff start cracking. When you research that, going back to the whole, way back, federal or whatever, same colors and stuff. So it's really like, all right, we did this for a few years. Y'all play our game. And it's just crazy. Because they ain't getting nothing. Even with the ride and CNN getting more money can be on there longer. Police get overtime, gasolines, everybody making a profit $1. And they ain't realizing they really just turned the lights on and then the roaches came out. So it's like, and not to call them roaches, but that's just a little example for it. You can't really march for no freedom. They've been doing this stuff on plantations, really killing your mom and father, taking them off when they ain't really had a protection like this. So now with Michael Brown, that's nothing to them. And I forgot the terminology, but the war when they dropped the bomb, I don't know if it was in Japan or China. Killed like 1.2 million in 10 minutes. 1.2 million in 10 minutes. They got way more artillery now than back then, and there's way more or less people here than it was over there. So you really can't fight nobody like that. So, and then people say, well, we got to get our presidents and stuff like that. They could bomb the countries, from the helicopters and stuff. So I think we got a huge problem to, do. And like he was saying, we got to unite. Because when I talk to my interns from India or China, we clearly talk about, we don't want your oil and nothing like that. We need to try to do something completely different just to show. But then they go to the world where I believe with God and the devil, with the spirits. And that's where you really got to trip off of it beyond just the person being bad.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a little powerful.
Yeah, man, I'm glad he brought that up, man, because he brought up several different things, man. On my way here, man, I literally was thinking, how what type of person thought of an atomic or nuclear bomb?
Right.
Like, do you know how much destruction, how many lives? Like, but in fact, like, you know what? We want to create something that we can just wipe out a whole
race,
a whole city, a whole neighborhood, a whole region, a whole country. Like at one, and who thought of that? You know, and not only that, the thing with bombs is that it has everlasting effects. You know, it has, you know, the for example, and even wars do too. That's a whole nother story. But you know, I think it's like the second or third generation since Hiroshima. Like those offspring have defects because of their parents or whoever was exposed who didn't die from the actual bomb being dropped to the radiation to all the different things. So it has everlasting effects. So they're saying they're still bombs. They're just different effects now, or different things, you know. And I also want, you brought up the economics, and this is just how important economics is. And then, I share with people how, without trying to bash people, because at least for my generation, born in the 80s generation, I remember being told that, you know, success, the picture of success for an African American male was to get up out the hood and never come back. Like never ever. Like don't like, or, you know, for example, like, you know, I had some of the, you know, people in the hood like, man, you doing good because, hey man, this ain't for you, man. You know, get up out of here, man. Don't come back. There ain't nothing here for you. You know, but you know, there's a huge amount of people that know that, as W.E.B. Du Bois mentioned, the talented 10th was supposed to go and get experience, knowledge, wisdom, all that, and bring it back pretty much, and help out the other 90% to create, you know, 20%,
which most cultures do, except for us.
But, you know, and we look at, for example, he mentioned India. Like, there are more Indian students getting their master's program, getting their master's degree at Rolla right now than there are African Americans getting their undergrad. You know, so and they getting like all those fields that are booming. But when you have the quote unquote talented 10th that leave neighborhoods and never come back, or you have the businesses, the professionals, the doctors, lawyers, teachers, police officers, when you have those people that leave those neighborhoods and never come back, you are left with the few who, like you said, who just don't know they're lost, right? Who don't know what's going on, and some of them just don't care, to be honest. But so here's I'm going to break it down real fast, and I'm going to be done. Economics is super important because economics basically controls who becomes the politician. If you look at any presidential race from now until all the way back to at least Kennedy, probably further than that, whoever raised the most money became the president. Right. Yeah. Plain and simple. Even when Barack was running against Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton raised more money, but they was like, whoa, this dude Barack, who did not have the Clinton regime behind him, raised, like, he was right behind her, and they was like, whoa, how is he doing this? This is a huge amount of power. Right? So, but if you take that to a local level, I worked for a person who became an alderperson in 2009 after the Obama campaign. And that person simply said that we don't ask our community, like our residents, we don't ask them for money. We ask the businesses for money because that's who we really take care of, plain and simple. And, you know, it wasn't, and this is here in St. Louis. So that particular politician received money and donations from like business owners from like $500 to $1,000 here and there, $500,000, and then the person even told me that we don't get nothing from the community because then they expect something and they only give me $5. Right. They expected something, but only $5 worth and whatnot. But when you control who the politicians are, and they control basically the laws. They make the laws, create the laws, veto laws, or take away laws. They create the laws in the legal system. Right. So and also the police force. I learned this early on by an attorney. He said, "Don't change the way you do business. Change the law." And we look at the laws that protect people or protect police officers. I'm still having a hard time understanding how in the world can somebody who is armed approach somebody who is unarmed. The unarmed person dies, but the person who is armed gets to go home. I don't understand it. They don't have tests done or anything. And I'm speaking about the Zimmerman Trayvon Martin situation. This current situation is just too many times where somebody who said it's okay, you know. Yeah. And then I asked one of our fraternity brothers who's in Texas. He ran for something.
What fraternity you?
Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Yo.
So I only know of one. No,
there's only one fraternity.
It's all love.
One
it's all
real
love.
fraternity.
Yeah, it's all love. I asked a fraternity brother who ran for something in Texas. He ran for judge or something like that. Something where you got to be elected. And I asked him, like, man, what's going on? Like, what's the possibility of the situation looking like he may not, the police officer may get off? And he said, well, simply put, there's a law. Something happened with a case went to the Supreme Court in 1985. I was 4, 1985. Jared wasn't even born yet. 1985, where the Supreme Court basically said it's okay for a police officer to shoot somebody who they feel is a threat.
Right.
Okay, whether he's a threat to the police officer, or a threat to society or the community, and even if they are fleeing. So it's a law that says he had the right to do that. And I know I said I would be done. I don't know. I'll be lying sometimes. I remember a cartoon. I love cartoons, man, because they used to tell us stories and we didn't even know it. I remember seeing a cartoon where Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, they were like running and chasing each other, and they both went off on a cliff. And Elmer Fudd asked Bugs Bunny, like, why aren't you falling? Like, why aren't you falling? And Bugs Bunny was like, I don't know the laws of physics. And Elmer Fudd fell. In a reverse of that, going back to the younger generation who don't know the laws, nor do they care.
Yeah.
And they're not falling for the same stuff that some people, that other previous generations might have failed for.
About the laws.
And they like, we don't care about the laws. We about to tear some stuff up. And because of that, that's what makes the situation so much more dangerous. Because, you have a huge amount of group of young people who don't know how to follow. They don't have a leader, but yet they're still followers. So that's why we have to, make sure we have to reach out, connect, create those relationships, get involved in the schools, get involved in communities, get involved in whichever shape, form, or fashion, and even starting with our own personal families as well, sitting down with our young men and our young ladies, and even with our cousins. I always look at the mirror, the man in the mirror, and I remember one time where there were some young people in my family, and one of them they just went all out. They just got tattoos on their face, on their neck, and stuff. And I was like, I can't work with him. I just can't do it. I'm good. I wipe my hands of them. Yeah. But what was that really helpful? No. And I was like, man, I got to check myself. So now I've been working on, meeting with getting back with him, and the other young people in my family, and saying, hey, man, well, listen, let's sit down, let's talk, let's discuss. And I'm one of the few men in my family that's still alive, and I'm one of the few who has never been to jail. Not to say that I'm any better, it's just that I just haven't gotten caught on doing certain things. So yeah, man.
Well, let me ask. I want to interject something real quick historically, because the savagery that's attached to these youngsters out here who were basically, revolutionaries in this whole incident. When you take to Facebook and you may have some white friends on your list who, are going on, why would they tear up their own neighborhoods? Just, they were really going in. Right. I had to remind them that just 97 years ago in East St. Louis in 1917, when black migrants from the South were traveling north and were seeking to find residence here in, North America, further north, there was a strike in East St. Louis with the union. Mm-hmm. And it was predominantly white, in the steel factories and the aluminum factories right across the bridge. It was one of the major riots that took place in American history. White folks tore that town up because black migrants from the South entered East St. Louis and occupied those jobs, took those jobs.
Economics.
And a human thing.
Yes, yeah. But, they try to attach that savagery to our people when a young black boy was gunned down in the street unarmed. To me, it's justified in being angry and wanting to tear something up. Right. But we're talking about jobs over in East St. Louis. The fact that your job was taken, you took lives, you killed individuals, and you tore the city of East St. Louis up, which was your community at the time. Right. So what about that history? Right. You know what I'm saying? What about that? Apply that to now. Parallel those two incidents, right. And weigh what's more significant or not. You lost a job, and this young man lost his life along with many young black men that have lost their lives in incidents like that.
Or their freedom.
But you're trying to label those youngsters, those revolutionaries, savages. Right. And they're stupid, and they're tearing up their communities. It went on for days on Facebook, man. Yeah. I just sat back like, wow.
You gotta turn it off.
I watch that kind of stuff, and I say, people only see what they see.
Right.
And until they start to see what others are seeing, there's not going to be any growth. There's not going to be any improvement. There's not going to be any progress. And I'm not saying that it's all about progress. There's going to be some failures, You hear all the time people have to think outside the box. Well, I look at what you say about the laws. That's that box.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's trying to think of things to do within the laws, and they're locking themselves in, with the laws. And I tell people, don't think outside the box. Take that box away. And then relax your creativity. You got to grow beyond it,
So, Roland, let me ask you a question. Since you're a seasoned brother.
If you want to say it.
Let me ask. So, right now, one of the purposes of us having this conversation is basically what should be a male's response to our environment right now. I want you to answer it in twofold. What should we be doing right now? And I'm speaking to men. And then also, are men, the older men, scared of the young brothers?
I think for the first part, I think that a lot of older men, we're stuck on what we came through as opposed to what we, like what I said earlier, I have to teach your future, not my past. We're stuck on what we came through, and we keep trying to relate to what we came through. And I'm not saying that we should not be sharing that with them, but we have to meet the generations that's having these problems, that we see as having problems. We have to meet them where they are instead of trying to bring them to where we are. If we can get down with them, I mean, I lived down in the projects and was teaching, in the city schools, and my kids knew that I lived down there with them. They knew that I shopped with them,
difference.
And so when I went and talked to them, I'm talking to them, that's coach. No. I mean, when they were breaking into garages and stealing and carrying on, they didn't bother me. And they bothered the folks next door to me because the folks next door to me didn't look like me, even though we lived down in the projects. We lived in Columbus Square. But, it was like a white oasis next to the Cochrane, So I met them where they were. And once and even with the programs that I've worked with since then, when I found that I had the most success with kids when I get with them. People say, you should be a principal. You should be an administrator. No. Every time a kid goes into a principal's office, the first thing come to their mind is, what did I do this time? What am I in trouble for this time? And it shouldn't be that way. But I found that I've affected more kids right there on the concrete, being right there with them, as opposed to somebody that they're, ducking and dodging, because they think that I'm the prison keeper, the gatekeeper,
the authoritative figure.
We gotta get on, meet them where they are, find out what their pulse is on, and then have our pulse be aligned with their pulse, and then I can get them to do anything I want. But the other catch is the other catch is now that I'm with them where they are, the things that I want these kids to do, I have to make those kids think that it's their idea.
Right.
If I make them think that it's their idea instead of it coming from me, now it's coming from them, and I'm applauding them for coming up with the creativity, with coming up the idea. Yeah, I knew that the idea existed. I knew that they could do it. But instead of me telling them what to do as a shop teacher, I can get more kids to make and finish whatever they want to start if I let them choose what they want to do, as opposed to me telling them, well, you got to make this bottle. Well, I didn't want to make that bottle. I wanted to make this box, So when I make them think that it's their idea, and I am making them think that, I'm guiding them through guidance and insinuation. Once they'll submerge themselves in it fully. And then I have to, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, You ought to take that a little farther. Let's see what else you can do with that. It's different than me telling them, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this, now do this. You can get out of people whatever you want to get out of people if you use the right type of approach.
Right. So Jared, so you tell me what, in the wake of all this and what we're going through, what would be your suggestion? You have some brothers here that were just like seriously pissed off. They mad at white folks, then they mad at cops. And, what would you tell them? Like, how would they, tomorrow, how can they wake up? What should they do to kind of make their situation better?
Yeah. Well, with me, I feel like I really got this blessing from the Lord with this gift, with this whole technology field. So the way that we doing it, we say we could do it in a physical way or a mental way or a spiritual way, but I want to try to do it in a technical way. just real quick, I work with 7th and 8th graders with computer training that got like a 3rd to 4th grade education. Then I work with a class of felonies that did 10 to 20 years plus, and I'm teaching them the exact same courses. Mm-hmm. But the stuff that they have to use to learn that easily is our computers and technology. Even if they walking up to a door at the grocery store and it's automatically opening, starting to do the self-checkout, all this stuff ran by software. So that's really what's controlling them on a day-to-day basis, even with the credit cards and that type of stuff. So I just want to get them to get more into that type of stuff. So, and that'll take a lot of time up, and the mistakes that we can make won't be too much. It'll be a good thing because we can learn what not to do. We could profit real good. And you could put all your energies and emotions into this type of stuff and still come out with something great.
So that's like fine. You tell them like brothers out here really try to find your passion, get good at what you love to do.
Yeah, because this came out of just being angry. But it's still something, so I want to, do my stuff too, especially being young and just my generation around me. I chose not to. So it's just a different way to outlet yourself. And if not that, just talking to some different mentors, saying how you feel, things like that. It ain't always have to be technology, but
but it is a choice.
Yeah, people come to me, we could do
it's
something.
It's a great
like
idea,
this.
actually, too.
Yeah.
What about Mr. Dickerson? How do you how would you guide somebody?
I just feel like, collectively we need to get out in the streets and speak to these young men, And I like what Coach was saying. Allow them to come up with the ideas. Mm-hmm. We learned that in parenting class. My fiance and I, we took a parenting class, and instead of dictating to children or young people how they should do things, we should allow them room to create. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful. I went out to the protest and I was speaking with young men.
Yeah, dashiki on too.
Power to the people. When I went out there and was speaking to young men, some of it, and I posted pictures on Facebook, just the imagery, I think kind of frightened people because they saw these young men with red bandanas across their face. But I had to point out, hey, look at the European lady. She got a red bandana on too. So don't be so quick to judge, because these young men had some powerful things to say, and they had a lot of questions. Really, they were doing more talking to law enforcement than they were, being agitators. They weren't, they really weren't there for that. They wanted their questions answered. So if we can get out there in the streets and in the community and help answer some of these questions and allow some room for these individuals to create, and what Jared is saying, he said he did his justice app out of anger, but look at what was created from that. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, our emotions can basically, dictate a lot of things that we do and who we are in life. We have to help mold that with our youth. You know what I'm saying? Help them to channel their energies in a more progressive and positive direction, and that's where I believe we are. It is frightening. Someone mentioned earlier, hey, what if Darren Wilson get off? That's kind of scary, when you think about it, because it could send our country into turmoil, chaos, anarchy, and I spoke of the young men being revolutionaries only because this situation was magnified through their actions. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? This would have possibly been swept under the rug had these youngsters not got out in the streets and start tearing stuff up. It caught the eye of the world. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if not, Michael Brown could have possibly just been another casualty. And, and I hear Mike Brown, please stop. Let's give Michael Brown a day and let's not do this. And no disrespect to them, but you can't dictate that because this is bigger than Michael Brown now.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and I understand their pain, and I definitely feel for them, and my heart and my prayers go out for, a speedy healing, but this is bigger than Michael Brown now. Right. This is, so we have to take that into consideration. And the world is sitting by watching to see what our justice system is going to, come to conclusion on. So, just watching, and so, I mean, we in the most fragile times probably in U.S. history in a very long time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If not the most fragile. So, we're waiting and we're watching, and I just pray so that my kids have an opportunity to grow up, in a stable environment and, enjoy the benefits of life. I just pray that they make the right decision. But I really believe if they don't, I'm going to leave it there. Right. If they don't.
Right. You got to do.
So same question, right? What should we do, right? I would suggest that all black men get their passports and their family passports and move to Canada. But unfortunately, that's not always like quickly, like tomorrow. I know Marcus Garvey wanted to go back to Africa. I'm going to Canada. Anyway, but seriously though, all the gentlemen touched on very excellent points, and I agree with them as well. Most people are pushed by pain. Right now, there's a huge amount of pain. And not only that, hurt people hurt others. So with that being said, we got to figure out a way to heal ourselves. And at the same time, it's really hard to continue to heal ourselves or get healing when we constantly have this wound of all these issues all over the years continue to be ripped open all brand new. And I think that's what the surprising factor was for the whole Ferguson. For people, I don't know about you all. I don't know any real thugs that came out of Ferguson. And not only that, the only death that has really occurred in Ferguson is actually Mike Brown this whole entire year. So it's not like, and so people were like, oh, wait a minute, how can this happen in Ferguson? Not only that, it was still part of the Ferguson Florissant School District, which was still at least one of the top schools systems or school districts, in North County as well. So it's just really surprising that all of this is happening. So we have to teach our young men, our young people, how to evaluate and be in touch with their emotions. I learned that we have IQ, an intelligence quotient. We also have an emotion quotient, an EQ. Some of the young people that are out there or that are so frustrated or so angry, they go from zero to 60 in seconds. Right. They don't have so when somebody shared this with me about the whole Mike Brown situation, I'm like, man, again, or something like that. That's why I initially reacted. But now I was like, man, I'm sad about it. I'm pissed off about it. I'm frustrated about it. So let me go talk to somebody. Right. That was my first. Let me go talk to somebody to figure out what's else going on, and then how can I help? How can I be of assistance? And also pray and meditate on it too. Right. So I literally went to God, then counselors, then mentors, and then to the streets before I took action. While some people just went straight to the streets to take action. Right. So not that. And here's the thing. Also, to me, the only wrong action or reaction or response is no action.
No action.
That's the only thing that's wrong. I literally have people say, "Oh, I'm march, go march for what? I need to know all the facts first." I'm like, the fact that there's a young man dead. Like, what fact do you? That's enough, But it is what it is. So, so I love that I've been blessed with people like Rolo and even Toya to mentor me growing up, where they ask me questions, and that's one thing I think, like Coach G said. Ask these young people questions. Ask your family questions. Ask these people questions. Is like, ask them. And when you ask them questions, one thing I also learned is the person who asks the question has the power. The person who asks the question has the power. So when you asking them, you have to tell them that they are wrong. You stupid. You dumb. You ain't got to tell them that. What I did with the kids I mentor, I asked them, because one of them was singing some song by, and I'm knocking any entertainers. They do their thing. They get their money. Do your thing, boo boo. Yeah. So like, I got somebody. I think I got that from Jimmy. Right. That too. No, but I think one of them was listening to like 2 Chainz or something, right? And I'm not knocking 2 Chainz, okay? So I asked him if you listen if you do anything that 2 Chainz is talking about, what will most likely happen to you? And the kids start thinking, I was like, and long story short, I saw like, so why do you listen to something, if he's talking about selling drugs, oh, I'm going to go to jail. Or what about, having sex with a bunch of women? What's going to happen to you then? You'll have kids, maybe catch STD, or, all these different things. He said these things. They know the answers. They just don't know the questions, and they don't know why they know, so, and long story short, I said, so if you do anything that he suggests doing, then why, that it has a negative result, why are you doing it? Right. He said, I don't know. So when we get to that point when people say, I don't know, that means that's a clue. It's a clue. It's a clue. So like I said, team working with the youth, team working with your immediate family. I think it's a great time right now, more than any time, for all men in St. Louis and across the country to literally call a family reunion strictly just for the men. Not knocking the women.
That's tight.
I mean, a majority of us are single. No, not a majority. Well, most homes are single parent, with the majority being men and women. But right now is a great time to have a just straight family reunion just for the men. I don't know if there's a support group to help them or do that or whatnot, I'm doing it. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna create something, a forum to where men can go and ask these questions or create this dialogue. Because there's another thing. Like we don't even talk to some of our families. You know, we
right.
Talk, seriously.
I got uncles I don't talk to.
So we need to do that. So that's when. So that's the first step to get like Etoya said when he first came, get our personal house in order.
Right.
And then literally create a game plan on what are we going to do on the day that if this guy does get charged and he doesn't get charged, because there's going to be a huge response from all parties involved on all things aspect as well. And I pray for the city and the country, because I'm not going to go into this, but like this has all of the makings of a racial civil war. That's all of the makings of it. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I'm praying deeply. But at the same time, I'm some people are defriending the people that are pissing them off on Facebook. I'm not going to defriend them because it frustrates me too. Because I'm like, man, you really think like that. Right. But I need to know. I need to know that you really think like that. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So with all that being said, no army has ever won a war without a plan. It's time for us to start planning.
Right. What we've seen with Mike Brown is a situation that has been that one straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I mean, when folks were asking me what we going to do, what are the Kappas going to do, what are you going to do, the first thing came to my mind was, what did we do when we heard about the guy that got killed after the U City picnic reunion? What are we going to do? What did we do after we heard about the other guy getting killed at the Sodan reunion after that out in St. Charles? What did we do when the grandmother who was walking across the street taking her grandkids home got shot and killed? We've become so desensitized to all of this stuff that, like you said, it's just another thing that's happened. And now this happened and we snapped. And everybody's upset because we snapped. Well, no, we shouldn't be upset because we snapped. We should have snapped a long time ago. Right. And I didn't do it for the reason that everybody thinks that I did. I did this little ice bucket challenge because it was hot and humid, and I didn't mind getting doused with. As a coach, that happens to you sometimes. But as I was doing it, I was thinking, this doesn't affect me. This doesn't affect black men. But there's a whole lot out there that do affect black men. And perhaps we should be doing a challenge, an ice bucket challenge for justice for us, because there's too many situations out there where we're not getting justice, and people seem to think that it's okay. Right. But it ain't, so I don't know what to call it, and I don't know where it should stop. I don't know that it should stop, but we got to do something, some type of a challenge that calls all of us to order, that calls all of us together as men and as women, to start to fight this, as opposed to, as we said before, we've overcome so much, but we've forgotten how to continue to fight for what is still yet to be gained.
We should try to start changing the laws.
Yeah.
Pretty much we'll be adding this update overnight, this little vote section. And we're just going to be starting off because a lot of people that we talking to that's, I guess, in the hoods or in the ghettos, they just don't understand the literacy or the terms behind all these different amendments or new laws. Uh-huh. So we just going to start providing them examples, kind of like test votes. Who would you want to do this for you? A guy that could provide this or a guy provide that. That's right. And then how he was just saying they pretty much know the answers, but they don't know when they need to ask the question.
Right.
So we going to have it where they could get instant alerts no matter if they getting some shoes or at the movies, because they say, boom, to, 400 something white females, 13 blacks, and kind of just get more analytics behind the thing. So that's innovative. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. You guys talked about what you think we should do moving forward. I think that, from my perspective, I think that family union is huge. I think that one thing I always say, and this might sound controversial, but black men, they always say we get the stereotype we're intimidating. You know what? I've had plenty of black people say, man, you look scary when you're mad. Sometimes we do. And I think that sometimes we put that type of image out there, or either we carry that face, that frown as a protective. Yeah. So we're protecting ourselves. We don't want you to think you can just roll over us. We don't want you to think you can just come say anything. And I think that's intentional. I mean, I've done it before. I've changed my walk in certain environments, you know what I'm saying, or the way I look. And I think that older black men or men with wisdom, or even men like yourself, young men, need to be able to look past that and be able to speak, question, or ask young men that look like you questions that you may have, or tell them, or do you have any questions for me? There should be a line of communication between us and those young brothers out there that you normally wouldn't talk to, that you normally wouldn't say anything. The young brother got the pants half down, got the wife beater on, look like he just smoked some weed. You still should be able to say something to him, or he should be able to come to you and ask you questions. And I think that as we're moving forward, I think one important thing as men, we should be able to move forward, and we should be able to open that line of communication up with these young brothers, because they don't have a clue. They've been spending the last few years of their life raising themselves.
Yep.
And even when their mother might be providing, they're still at home predominantly most of the time by themselves. And so they've used the streets or that cousin or that older brother who don't know what the heck as a source of information, which also may be skewed. And so that's the one thing that I would put on, because I had this envision and I failed to even tell anybody about it. We had that going on in Ferguson. How powerful would have been hundreds of black men, fathers, going down there,
right?
Just being down there, just letting them know, what I'm saying, we down here, we got your back. We are, if we understand, you need, what you need. Because we not finna just let nobody just kill all y'all off. What y'all need. I mean, that's what I would do. Just think, if your kids went down there, you would go down there. So if we did that, if we just showed up and just been a part and moving forward, if we are a part of this situation where we see our young boys in a situation that we know they may not be able to handle to the best of their ability, our faith should be there to provide some sort of guidance.
Right.
And so that's kind of what my thought process, and it's a general thought, but I think it's huge if we just really start opening them lines of communication with these young brothers, and I'm definitely going to try that myself. So I guess we've had a great conversation, man. I really appreciate y'all.
Thank you
waking up.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, man, for inviting.
I appreciate y'all, and thanks, Jared, for everything that you provided, man. Thanks for having your insight and your app. I do appreciate it. And then,
Jared provides hope.
Yeah,
when I look at him, I see
man.
hope.
Me too, man.
Right.
So you hear about all of the negative stuff, but you never hear about the positive.
Right. Right, man. So thank y'all
Keep
again,
doing
man.
what you're
I appreciate it.
We as men face many difficult challenges, especially as black men. This is A Man's Response. For previous episodes and information about our guests, check out the Man's Response channel on the Lifestyle Network of OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, have ideas or questions for the men's panel, please email them to info@OneRareGem.com. A Man's Response is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.